From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of Evenings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022 tonight. But we're going to start with the breaking news, of course, out of Ukraine and Russia and how it impacts your wallet and how the fourth stimulus recon, the Build Back Better Act, is still being built and is getting better. All the latest details on what's unfolding tonight, direct from Santa Monica, California. We'll be looking at CR for Stimulus 1.0 that has an inherent deadline of just a few days away and will get done. And the great news is that there's breaking news as Patrick Leahy is now protecting it from other funding sources that wanted some of that money. Not happening. The other funding sources will have to look elsewhere. And we'll look at CR for Stimulus 4.0, the Russian sanctions and Ukrainian supply or funding bill that will stay apart from your CR for Stimulus 1.0. It's good news across the land. The President of the United States, despite what's happening in Russia, wants the big money that is in Build Back Better Act to go out right away. Automatic checks, adult automatic checks, $2,000 a month, starting at day one. But CR for Stimulus would get you a check sooner than that. I have the latest details on that across the board. Then we'll be looking at SS300, and I told you Friday was going to have major financial news that impacts your SS300. It came in. I'll have the latest details on what those inflation numbers said going into next week. Next week is going to be a big week, folks. The FOMC meeting, number one of this year, and how it impacts your wallet across the land. Then we have great news going into a big evening as the oil reserve, Brent crude numbers, are trying to be kept at about $100 a barrel to keep your price of gasoline at the pump lower. I'll explain to you what the number is tonight, as the strategic reserves may be releasing more money, more petroleum into our supply chain, keeping your price at the pump lower, as Ukrainian and Russian oil is now offline because of sanctions. But great news with a second deal and the works behind that could give bigger cuts of prices for you across the land. And then, stay at the very end, because viewers are getting lots of money, on average $45,000 from third stimulus, and are getting another round this week. And I have an updated look at third stimulus in tonight's recording. Boy, we got a lot of breaking news. We have a lot of money for you to get today. It's available today. It's third stimulus, it's fourth stimulus, it's CR for stimulus. It's all heating up. Everything is looking wonderful. Well, except we talk about those lobster shorts, and then we're not there. We changed the backdrop. What is that? It looks really nice. What is that thing? Let's try it this way. Oh, look how gorgeous that is. We got a great new night, and it starts right here on Evenings. What a big night it is, folks. And across the line, we have a lot of money to go over in tonight's recording. I'm excited you're here. But boy, what a day it is. As Ukrainian forces are trying to hold their position in their homeland as Russian invasion continues across the land. In tonight's recording, we go over the latest details of what is happening overseas and how it impacts your wallet. The Russian invasion could topple the Ukraine capital by weekend, or could go the other direction. What's going on? I have the latest details of tonight's recording. We'll be looking at Build Back Better Act, the fourth stimulus recon, and why it's going to become a law still. Why Joe Biden has told his team to send out those checks as soon as it becomes law. I have all the incredible details of that tonight. But CR for Stimulus 1.0 is the one that's teeing up with the breaking news that's huge tonight, folks. Leahy is protecting your money. $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds. He's protecting it. From CR for Stimulus 4.0, I'll have the latest details on that. Then we'll be looking at SS300. New economic data came in on Friday. I told you it was a big day. What is that signal? Because that is how your benefits would be impacted if you're on anything from VA to SSI, SSDI. We got a lot of money in this recording. Plus, we'll be looking at the price of gasoline you're paying and what the federal government has done in the last 48 hours to bring it down. But will it be able to achieve it? We have a lot in tonight's recording, folks. And I have a revamped look of how you can get third stimulus across the land. That's money available for you right today, not 5 weeks from now, not 5 months from now. It is right today. We got a big recording right now, folks. But first, let's start with Build Back Better. Build Back Better is 3 clusters of checks and 3 add-ons of checks. And those incredible checks are heading to the finish line. $15,000 to $60,000 of checks, 3 clusters and 3 add-ons. Let's look at them right now. There is $15,000 to start, but upwards of $60,000 with those 3 clusters. What are those 3 clusters? Cluster number 1 has hazard pay in there. 1 more year. Yes. 3rd, stimulus, extended under 4 stimulus for my essential workers. 1 more year. $4,000 of elder care. Got it in there as well. Then they got in there in that first cluster, the incredible Pell Grant checks for my college students. Got that in there. They got in there the $12,500 for the purchase of a new electric vehicle. Wow. That is huge. Got that in there as well. And then, of course, they got in there the home repairs if you live in a low-income community. CTC, 1 more year of that as well. And that is about $3,600. A lot of money in that first cluster of checks. Now, there's also 3 add-ons of checks. And that first add-on of checks, oh boy, folks, it's huge. Comes from here in Southern California. Maxine Waters got it in there. It's one of the most popular provisions of Build Back Better that's going to become a law that viewers are so excited about. And what is it? It is money for the purchase of your first home, a little bit less than $25,000. Wow, that is huge. And it is money given from the federal government to the seller in the time of escrow in your name. Now let's turn to the second cluster of checks. Home repairs to weatherize your home and paid leave. Home repairs, these are to weatherize your home to sustain a natural disaster, which is every time your eyes have to look at the lobster shorts the neighbor is wearing. Oh, my eyes, they're hurting. Paid leave. If you have to take off from work because your boss showed up at the Senate chambers wearing lobster shorts. Ow, my eyes hurting again. I can't get away from them. They're everywhere. How much does paid leave pay? It pays a lot. $1,700 a week if you make $70,000 or more per year. $15,000 annual salary, $400 a week. And if it's $35,000, well, then it's in between. It's $800 a week. W-2, 1099, you all get this money. If you don't work, but your son or daughter does work, you work, he's part of the household, they're part of the household, they have to take off from work to take you to the doctor's office, and they get the check as well. It's huge. It's $46,000 a year. That is paid leave. Now, that tees us up then for the second add-on of checks from Build Back Better across the board, and you know what that is. That's the Bob Casey provision added in there for free home health care for seniors and people with disabilities. Wow, it's huge. $250 billion, just a little bit less, for seniors and people on disabilities, free home health care. Can't believe it's not free. Now it will be under Build Back Better. Now let's turn to third cluster checks. A lot of deliciousness in this part. Wow. Free internet for all checks, farmers checks, independent contractors checks, and seniors checks. Oh, this is getting exciting. Deliciousness. The seniors have 2 checks on the house, 3 coming on the Senate side. On the house, they got the Medicaid gap fix, more about that in a second. And the hearing check on the Senate side, they got the dental, vision, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare. So much excitingness across that money, but we aren't done there yet, because you know what happens. The senators vow to add other checks in there, and what are those other checks? Start with the letter M. Jump to the live channel right now. Tell me also where you're tuning in from and how the weather is. I see it. MSC. What is MSC? Who gets it? How much do you get? I'll be answering some new questions I got overnight about MSC. They're great questions. I'm going to answer them right now. But MSC refers to monthly IRS stimulus check. It's a check that's sent out from IRS to you, automatic check for adults. Children get the checks, the CTC, so they're not going to get 2 checks. They're going to get theirs, and this is for the adults. These are programs of checks that would be added to the Build Back Better that already has lots of checks in there, folks. Build Back Better is all checks for low-income and middle-class individuals. How much are these checks? Who gets it? The legislators represent that. If you got a third, you get a fourth. So let's recap. Single individual, $75,000 less annual income, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it. Double it. Family of 4, quadruple it. Here's our family of 4. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, rail benefits, you get as well. It's not income. It's not taxable. It's offered nationwide across the country. It goes off the most recent tax return. So that tax return had a direct deposit account. That's how you get paid. And to that one viewer who said, my fiance says I got to pay it back. No, but I think you should look at the return policy on that engagement ring. Is it 30 days? You know, if it's Amazon Prime, I think you're good. I think return it quickly. You can't get engaged to a guy who doesn't understand that stimulus is not taxable and not and you don't have to return it. Oh my goodness. At least make him a viewer of this channel before you reconsider. And that is MSC. How much is it? Let's go over the details of it right now. $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. That is incredible deliciousness of MSC. Now, where do they add it in there? They added it on the Senate side during Senate subcommittee, where the legislatures add in provisions to what's already in the Build Back Better Act from the House. But that event has not happened, as you and I know. It's been months, and we've been waiting for those Senate subcommittee to formulate the bill, call for a vote, Senate floor, and have that 2-day vote-a-rama. It hasn't happened. So, 4 weeks ago on air, I delivered the solution so far to Build Back Better's delay, and it's CR for Stimulus 2022. The concept is the following. Build Back Better Act will get done, says Joe Biden through his spokesperson. It will get done, but we need a check now because we've been waiting. Inflation is getting worse by the minute. And the opportunity is inserted into a bipartisan bill that's just a few hundred pages in length, not thousands of pages, like a package that's partisan, and get it out quickly and fast. Continuing resolution is the number one option. A continuing resolution is a budget bill to fund the federal government in every 3 to 6 months. The latest one has a March deadline. 3 to 4 weeks ago, I delivered the message back on air, and I said, do you want to bring it on back? And viewers said yes. Bring what back on here? It was something I made history with in 2020. In 2020, we had seen a second stimulus package in the works. We had gotten a first stimulus check. We used it up, needed more money, heard about a second stimulus package. Negotiations went on for 11 months. Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin, no deal. Package, thousands of pages length, partisan, not agreed upon by either political party. And so I said to myself, I need to find a solution for the American people. I found it. A continuing resolution. It's a budget bill. It has an inherent deadline, just a few days, a few weeks, maybe a month, not longer than that. Bipartisan support, insert a stimulus check in there. I made the first recording, and in December 2020, I said, hey, everybody, it's LA, back with you, and I have an idea. We've been waiting for second stimulus for too long. Why not insert a stimulus check into the continuing resolution that has a December 2020 deadline? You pushed, and together, we made history. I made history with the creation. You made history as the Purple Power Caucus, the family, by inserting that $600 stimulus check into the continuing resolution. We got it. It became law. What also happened? Second stimulus fell apart. Second stimulus never had a bill, never had a vote, and never paid anyone any money. Thank goodness for CR for stimulus. So 3 to 4 weeks ago, I brought it back on air on a Saturday morning, and since then it's birthed 1, 2, and 3, and 4.0. 4 versions of it, and I have big updates about 1 and 4.0 tonight. The first update is 1.0. CR for Stimulus 1.0, which again is now a continuing resolution, has an inherent deadline of early March. And the great news is that there's $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds in there that is more than enough for a $2,000 stimulus check for us. The discretion is at the hands of U.S. cabinet members under Joe Biden. So far, so good. And the great news tonight on Evenings LALATE is better than the news of last night. Why? Last night on Evenings LALATE, I detailed to you that several forces were trying to take some of this money, that could be your money, for their purposes. Oh, well, you got to thank Patrick Leahy on this one, the senator from Vermont, because he kept them at bay. He's keeping them away from the $1.5 trillion discretionary funds. It's great news. Then, as the White House has tried to really push other payments, where are they landing? They're landing in CR for Stimulus 4.0, and the good news for you, the American people, is that anything that concerns Russia and Ukraine is staying away from CR for Stimulus 1.0. It's staying in 4.0. It's not particularly good news for Ukraine, but it's good news for the viewership of this channel. I'll explain the breaking news tonight. It's brand new. Then we'll be looking at SS300, the opportunity of Joseph Biden to get money out to you. He made a campaign promise when inflation was not out of control. It's really out of control tonight. And I have new economic data that came in minutes ago that shows us where inflation is going 1 month after it posted its highest numbers that I predicted last year. Did inflation go down? Did inflation stay high? Or did inflation get worse? I have breaking news on this tonight, and it all impacts your SS300 by replacing COLA with inflation. This is an additional $300 a month, SS300, that goes on top of your SSI, SSDI, Social Security and Railroad benefits, and veterans benefits if all that Joe Biden does is make a phone call. The breaking details you're only hearing on this channel in the second half. Then we have great news about the price of gasoline at the pump. It could be coming down if several factors are at issue. But if it doesn't come down, can it sustain itself across what's going on in Ukraine and Russia tonight? We'll go to a preview of what's happening this weekend and early next week. Because, folks, next week is like, if you thought this week was a big week, you have no idea what's going on next week. It's out of control. We have the Federal Reserve FOMC meeting. We have the interest rate spikes. We have the inflation numbers coming in. And we'll learn whether Ukraine will be able to sustain itself against further attacks by the Russian troops. Plus, I have an updated look at how to get third stimulus, get some money right today. It's coming up in the second half of this video. We got a big evening to LA. I'll see you back in 60 seconds. But first, I want you to learn about the community page. Here's a little bit about the community page, the link of which is under the video's description. I'll see you back in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now as Evenings LA goes into its second half. The details tonight out of Ukraine and Russia are very fluid. And I'm going to go over more about it in a second, but I'm going to cut back to CR for Stimulus 1.0. That is great news tonight with a deadline just a few days away. We'll be looking at CR for Stimulus 4.0 and why the U.S. leadership is correct in keeping it away from 1.0. It's all about your money and not necessarily good news for Ukraine, but good news for you tonight. Then we'll be looking at those new economic data that came in. That is great news for SS300 if Joe Biden makes that phone call. It's huge, and the opportunity of Joe Biden to keep that price of gasoline at the pump low. How long can he sustain it? As we go into those FOMC meetings next week with the Federal Reserve, that will indicate whether interest rate spikes will have 5, 7 spikes, quarter basis, half basis point. A lot of details coming up in the second half, plus stay the very on it. I'm going to show you how to get big sums of money from third stimulus. It's a revamped look across the board. We got a big night with a lot of breaking news. I'm excited you're here. But first, I want you to subscribe. Go into this video right now and subscribe. You're watching the number 3 most watched financial news channel in America, print, broadcast, cable, and internet. It's LALATE. Hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends and family, come on over. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member to get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, via the YouTube alert system and the LALATE alert system, a link to which is under the video's description across the board. As we go into tonight's second half, we're going to start with CR for Stimulus 1.0, which, of course, is the continuing resolution. The good news tonight is that everything that was in place 2 days ago is still in place tonight. After concerns last night that several forces were trying to take some of the money that could be dedicated to you for themselves. What's at issue? $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds are part of a negotiated package between Republicans and Democrats, House and Senate, over several weeks in the continuing resolution that has an early March deadline. $1.5 trillion is a lot of money, folks. It's enough for a $2,000 stimulus check for you. The discretion is in the hands of cabinet members like Janet Yellen, head of Treasury, head of IRS. Good going into last night. And then last night we heard that the White House had reached over to send saying we want some of that money for COVID testing and treatment. They said no. Thank goodness. Then the restaurant union came with their hands out. Ugh. Can you put some spices on the hands and go make some burgers? The restaurant union, one of my most disliked unions covered on this channel, coming asking for money again when they saw free money sitting around. They were kicked to the curb. Thank goodness. So the good news tonight is that all the money that was still there is still in there. $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds. So bipartisan support, inherent deadline early March, 1.5 trillion, enough for a $2,000 stimulus check. Discretion at the hands of the people who want to have discretion. So what do you want to do? You want to make sure that the funds stay there and that no one else takes those funds for themselves. But you want to advocate to those senators to say, you know what? We've had your back for Build Back Better. It's time you get us a check in here because it has been long and we've had your back. It's time to get that check out. And so you want to pick up the phone and advocate to all these individuals, including Casey, Coons, Warren, Wyden, Sanders, and Schumer, also Leahy, who's not featured in this scroll. You want to say, hey, $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds that are in there. It's bipartisan support. It's money for the American people. We've had your back as elected officials for the Build Back Better Act, the forced stimulus recon. You know, it's been 11 months. You promised us multiple stimulus checks. We believe it will get done, but we're hurting from inflation. We need a check now. Get the check out to us. Do not spend the $1.5 trillion on something sort of nefarious or something sort of ridiculous like Broadway or restaurants or COVID testing. Spend the money on a check on us. We've had your back. Get that check out to us. And at times of need like this, it's not only our need, it's also your political future. Because guess what? Republicans, Democrats are trying to get you money right now. They understand the midterm elections will be won by people getting compensated. As inflation is out of control, the way you deal with inflation is you get people's pocketbooks looking better. And that's not promises, it's actual cash. And so that's why you want to advocate to those legislators. The great news is that CR for Stimulus 1.0, the money is still there. It's still discretionary. It's enough for a stimulus check. And they're blocking anyone from taking it, like the restaurant unions or the White House for COVID testing. The other breaking news tonight, which is great news for us, very bad news for Ukraine, is that CR for Stimulus 4.0 will not be merged with CR for Stimulus 1.0. You're looking at images of the beautiful Ukraine here. That is aluminum. That's one of the biggest exporters of Ukrainian industry. This is also a picture of Ukraine. This is not live footage. This is, of course, before the events unfolded this week. What's at issue with CR for Stimulus 4.0 that's brand new tonight? And this is sort of hard to report because it doesn't make a lot of sense. And you're trying to, help one group of people, but you're also trying not to hurt another group of people. The senators were trying to pass a Russian sanctions bill for 3 weeks. Never got it to a vote. I don't know why. We never heard on this channel, I never reported about a Ukrainian funding bill, which makes a lot of sense. Give some money for Ukrainian, refugees on the ground, some supplies. There's a lot of, Red Cross funds, things like that. Or also give them some assistance in their military operations. So what's happening tonight is that Leahy says, not happening as CR for Stimulus 1.0. Good. You don't want that. You don't want them affecting your CR. So your CR is unaffected by this. What is this? This is CR for Stimulus 4.0, and it's staying away from CR for Stimulus 1.0, which is great news for us. It is great news for you and your wallet. Not great news for Ukraine. And I got to tell you, I'm not happy with what Congress has done here. The people of Ukraine need our assistance and not after the government falls. There are indications tonight, and we'll see by the weekend, stay with me all weekend long and early next week, if Vladimir Putin's hope to take Ukraine by the weekend and topple its capital by the weekend happens or not. The number of fatalities among Russian troops is the worst since the Cold War. 2,000 Russians have already died. Tankers lost, airplanes lost. So Russia's not doing well at the moment and may not actually take Ukraine. But if it does take Ukraine and we sat back and did nothing and we just talked about it, it doesn't look good as both Republicans and Democrats who got nothing done in CR for Stimulus 4.0. Now let's turn back to 2 and 3.0. That is the economic relief. Has nothing to do with Russia, has nothing to do with anyone but us. That legislation, pieces of legislation, started with Pete Aguilar and the Democrats in the House about 2 weeks ago. They wanted to do pieces of legislation because Build Back Better Act is taking a while, and they got the first one passed, sent to the Senate. The Senate Republicans, led by Todd Young, says, like it. We like what the Democrats did. We're going to merge with what we're doing in the Senate. Why do we hear Republicans talking about relief, economic relief? Because the landscape of the politics of this country today is different than in 2020. And now Republicans and Democrats both agree that they have to solve inflation right now. And you solve inflation by doing things right now. No one's going to elect an official based upon promises because the inflation issue is hitting right now. Congress can do stuff, and also the Federal Reserve. So that is why there's good news about bipartisan support to get 2 and 3 done together is across the land. Now, let's turn over to SS300, which is really getting brand new news tonight. And I told you all week long, this was going to be the recording you was going to watch. SS300, which is 200, 300, 400, raising your benefits up if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad benefits, Veterans benefits, is based upon where inflation is. You know, man, I've taught you that over the last few months. Well, I told you today we were going to see a big inflationary gauge number released. We see the inflation number released once a month, and it takes about a month after it happens to get the number. Now, during the time in which we're waiting for the number, we get inflationary gauge numbers, which are sort of indicators of where we're going. And your benefits are based upon those gauges. Let's go over what we're talking about first. Then we'll go over the economic breaking news that came in minutes ago. I have it for you right now and what it could mean for your wallet. SS200 started in January 2020 from this person, Elizabeth Warren. I started making the first recordings then in spring of 2020. She had made it a campaign promise that if elected as president of the United States, she would give you an additional $200 a month on top of your existing benefits if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad benefits, and Veterans benefits. She withdrew her campaign her run for presidency, and Joe Biden said, I like Liz's policies. I'm going to adopt them as my own. He did adopt them as his own, promising that $200 a month. When I started making the recordings about it in the spring of 2020, I called it SS200. It's a catchy phrase, and we all understood what I'm referring to. So that's the language, that the coined expression I start on this channel. Joe Biden, when he won the general election in fall 2020, I stayed on point with SS200 because he had it in his transition papers from private citizen to president-elect. It's still published at joebiden.com. He said millions of Americans need this money now because of urgent need. At the time, it was COVID. Guess what? It's more urgent now, folks. We're in the bricks of bad inflation, and millions of Americans need that money. So 3 weeks ago, I said, we need another solution. Why? Let me tell you what was going on. Joe Biden came into office and he didn't do it. Then the Democrats said, we will do it ourselves, and even quoted his transition papers. We will do it for you. Remove the asset cap, remove the income cap, remove the marriage penalty. Needs an act of Congress for all those threes. And then remove the COLA benchmark, replace it with inflation, and then raise your benefits up. All last year, I covered it, and they didn't get it done yet. So 3 weeks ago, I delivered on air the opportunity for Joe Biden to give you $200 more per month right now, and all he needs is a phone call. And the opportunity to give you an extra $100 by December. That would be SS300. An additional $40, $50, $60 a year after that, that's SS400. The brand new details tonight is that the inflation numbers are higher than anticipated. Let's go over what's going on. The way you do this is you replace COLA with inflation. Your benefits go up every year based upon this number called COLA, C-O-L-A, cost of living adjustment, every December. COLA doesn't work. Everyone admits it doesn't work. It stays flat. For many years, it's been flat. It only came at a decent number this last December because inflation is out of control. Last spring, Federal Reserve, Jay Powell, spoke about where he thought inflation was going to be in December 2021. He said 1 to 2% and transitory, which means temporary. Federal Reserve said a little bit higher. Wall Street said a little bit higher, 2 to 3%. December 2021, temporary and transitory. Between Wall Street and Jay Powell, I both said, no way, no hell, no how. It ain't going to be that number. I said it's going to be 8%. It's not going to be temporary. The number came in December 2021, a month later, in January, last month, 7.5%. Whammo, I hit it on the dot. Nearly 8%. Now, we didn't know if it was temporary or transitory or was going to be sustained at that level. My prediction in January, when we got that 7.5% number in December, that it's still staying high. It's not temporary. Over the last month, I trained you how to do this yourself. You don't need me to figure out whether inflation is happening in your town. You just watch the supermarket aisle. You buy the eggs from the same brand, from the same market, the same quantity every week, and just keep track of how much you're paying. If you see it's going up 20 cents in a month, that's inflation. I don't even need to make the recording for you. You'll know the inflation number before I tell it to you. Well, you may already know this number before I deliver the breaking news to you right now. Here we go. I told you this day we would have big numbers coming in from an inflation gauge. Again, this is not an inflation number. It's a gauge of the inflation number, which is coming in just a few days from now. It showed that the Fed's favorite inflation gauge came in at 5.2%, the highest annual rise since 1983. Folks, that is really huge. Yeah, are you sweating? I'm sweating. Food and energy prices, there you go. Food and energy prices went up 6.1% year to date, the highest annual raise since 1982. It's very, very high. Consumer spending went up, and it was double than estimates, but it also showed a decline of other items. So the concern across the board is that this number is very, very high. This comes as the producer price index number was released about 2 weeks ago, 9.5%, 10%. It's just huge. Inflation numbers local, like in Florida, Texas, California, is 12%. So we're waiting how bad this will be. But this is why you want the president to make the phone call today. What phone call would he make? He'd make a phone call over to the Social Security Administrator saying, hey, this is your president. I don't need an executive order. I don't need an act of Congress. I'm giving you instruction. I put you in that job. Replace COLA with inflation right now. Millions of Americans are hurting. Replace it with inflation right now. It'll be tied to inflation 30 days out. And immediately people will see $200 more in their bank account starting in 30 days. Imagine if you're a person on benefits and you're paying $300, $400 a month more now because of inflation. This would soften the blow right away. By the end of the year, when inflation goes down, because it will go down, to about 4%, then you'll go up another $100, but things will be cheaper so you'll level out by the end of the year. You'll be caught up. You'll be ahead of the game by the end of the year. And the year after that, you'll be even better as inflation goes away, and yet you'll still get like 1% to 2% on top of that. You'll go be SS300, $400 more per month. This all works. He needs to do this right now. There's no excuses about this. He put it in writing. He said he was going to do it. This is the time and place to do it. And these inflation numbers are very high. Now, what also are in these numbers? Okay, so this coming week, folks, is a big week. A big week for a series of reasons. One, oil and gas. Two, the FOMC meeting. And three, Russia and Ukraine. What's happening? The Federal Reserve will meet this coming week for the first of 5 FOMC meetings to announce whether it will raise interest rates this year. 6 months ago, we were talking about maybe one interest rate spike. We're now looking at 5 interest rate spikes in 5 meetings on the low end of a quarter basis point. On the high end, 7 spikes. But people are very worried about this first meeting next week. Analysts were thinking that it could be a half basis point, which is a lot more. This hits you on your credit card debt, hits you on your student loan debt. And now some analysts tonight think that maybe because of Russia and Ukraine, like Paul Ashcroft at Capital Economics, that a 50 basis point hike seems less likely. I think so. I think the Federal Reserve wants to have a little wiggle room, and I think it would look wrong to do 50 basis point next week based upon the events of Russia and Ukraine. Interesting point across the board. Now, let's go to something else that's important for you to know. And you're going to see me stay on this number for a couple of weeks. So I want you to know this number really well. Because if you drive a car, this is a number you need to know. If you don't drive at all, but you buy milk or dairy, then someone drove that milk or dairy to get to you in a truck to get to the supermarket. They pay for gasoline. So I need you to know this number. So this is how we can all talk about where we're going across the land. The number is called the Brent crude price a barrel of gasoline. This is not something you're paying. This is something the gasoline station is paying to put it in the pump. So where is that number tonight? The number tonight is at about $100 a barrel. Easy number. Pretty easy. $100 a barrel. The concern is the following. Once we implemented 1, 2, 3 rounds of Joe Biden's sanctions against Russia and Ukraine, that took Russian and Ukrainian oil out of our supply. So we don't have their gasoline in our pumps. With their gasoline not in our pumps, the likelihood of the gasoline that we're getting from other places going higher is more likely. So the President of the United States had 1, 2, 3 great moves in less than 24 hours on that. I have the latest details on that starting right now, but I also have the breaking news about where it could get worse. It's a very, very fluid situation. I need you to stay with me on this number right now. It's very, very important. The current price of $100 a barrel of gasoline is where we are right now. The great news, number one, is that yesterday, the president announced the release of some gasoline barrels that are in the strategic reserves to bring the number down to about $94 a barrel. What is this? The federal government holds some gasoline barrels in storage. It's behind the lobster shorts. You go to that room and open the door and see the lobster shorts, and you run for the hills. That you don't need guard dogs. You just put a lobster shorts at the entrance, and no one will bother those barrels. What are those barrels for? Whenever gasoline gets too high, you can just release those barrels into U.S. consumption, into the supply chain for us, and it brings down the price. So we're at $100 a barrel right now. He wants to release some of the barrels to get us down to $94. $6 cheaper. This is big. This is huge. It helps a lot. The question is whether that's enough. Now we have a second option. And he implemented this yesterday. I like this one a lot, folks. I think this is really good, tough move by Joe Biden. He said that now that Ukraine and Russia's oil is out of our supply chain, I will not, this is the president speaking, I will not tolerate U.S. Producers of petroleum to stick it to our U.S. citizens, our fellow U.S. citizens, by price gouging us. So he's going to criminally prosecute any U.S. manufacturers that provide us gasoline, knowing that Ukrainian and Russian oil is now gone out of our supply chain, from sticking us to a higher price point. I love that. The third option is great, but it's not right here at the moment. What is it? The federal government reportedly is closing in on a deal with Iran for a nuclear arms agreement. It's been months in the work. Iranian oil is not in our supply chain. That's why gasoline is expensive at the pump. They believe this nuclear agreement is going to be reached. And once it's reached, then millions of barrels of Iranian oil go into our supply chain in the market, which will bring down the price of oil. Now, the thing that I'm not particularly excited about on this one is that it's weeks away. It's not days away. So what is the breaking news tonight about the situation? The breaking news tonight about the situation is that you're looking at beautiful stock footage of the gorgeous country of Ukraine. This is not how it looks tonight. But the situation right now is that no one really knows if the Ukrainian-Russian situation will bring us to $125 a barrel, even $130 a barrel, if the Russian-Ukraine situation continues to unfold, which is likely to continue to unfold. Here's the data tonight. We now know that analysts believe the following, but are worried about the horizon. And I need to go over these numbers with you because this is big. First, let me go over why I'm bringing up these numbers to you. Gasoline, even if you don't drive, but your son or daughter drives, or you buy food at the market that hasn't been driven in. If gasoline gets out of control, then jobs are lost, unemployment grows, stagflation comes in potentially, and recession comes in. It's bad news. You cannot have gasoline out of control. It is one of those things you cannot have out of control. And it's not something the Federal Reserve has anything to do with. So the Federal Reserve cannot do a lot of stuff with gasoline. It can do its stuff, but it can't do anything with gasoline. What's the issue? Analysts believe that where we are right now at $100 a barrel, we can sustain that for 6 months if inflation does not get worse. Inflation is not going to get worse. We know that. So can we stay at $100 a barrel? It's the big, I don't know. No one knows at the moment. There is consensus that if we go to 125 a barrel because of problems in Russia and Ukraine still continuing, we cannot sustain that for more than a few more months. We haven't gotten there yet, but we can't sustain it. 130, we said we absolutely cannot. We cannot live. Our economy will really tank. So it's a very, very fluid situation on this gasoline tonight. Now, let's go back to some other things that I want you to know going into this new week, which is where that Federal Reserve will come in with those FOMC meetings. Will it raise the basis point, a half basis point? We will see. That detail is huge. But what I want to do is I want to focus on you and your money. The reason I'm here is to get you money. Every single day, I want you to get more money from this channel. Every day, I want you to be cashing checks. Every day, I want you to be cashing checks, not tracking checks. And third stimulus is still paying out. It's still paying out. And I'm going to go over fourth stimulus more in a second, which repeats third stimulus. But I'll start with third stimulus right now for the first time on this recording, because guess what? Viewers have listened and learned. I've revamped the third stimulus part of this recording so you learn more about this. But I want to congratulate the viewers who listened and learned this week and got big sums of money. Brand new tonight, Bob Bacon. You recognize him with those lobster shorts, don't you? So he says he got 3 more months of rent. Congratulations. And then Brian Donahue overnight says, family, lots of hearts. There's 3 hearts in this message. How are you, Hawks? I just got a second round of rent. And that is, my clip is over the line. Oh, 5 months. I've been reading this as 4 months today. It was 5 months. Wow, that's great. Thank you, Alex. Well, wow. Most people rent is, on this channel is somewhere around $1,200, $1,500. So you're seeing 5 months or 3 months. These are people getting $5,000, $6,000 this week. Where do you get this money? What is this money? It is third stimulus. It became law in spring of last year, and viewers on average have gotten $45,000 for rent, utilities, mortgages, and more. It's available everywhere, folks. Everywhere. And I've revamped this part of the recording to go it over with you slowly. If you have the membership newsletter, pull it out. We're going to go over the details of it right now. You're ready? Here we go. Reach out to your city hall, your city house authority, your county hall, and your county house authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, utility assistance because of COVID, mortgage assistance because of COVID. It's 3 months you must do. You must reach out to all 6 places. You must get applications on file everywhere, and you must do multiple rounds. Open that membership newsletter and follow along for more guidance on how to get these sums of money, and lean on the nonprofits because they will pick up the money where you have problems at the city, county, state. They also do other things like home repairs, nominal home repairs, featured in the membership newsletter 7 days a week, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Average viewer of the channel has gotten $45,000 from third stimulus. So I want you to go get that money right today. You got money from it before. Get another round of that money today. Do it right now. Now, the incredible great news when we talk about this money is that viewers have listened and gotten these additional rounds. Nisi, she got $30,000, $40,000 from it earlier this last year. She got another $10,000 this week. That's for $7,000 for rent and $3,000 for utilities. Karen got $40,000 this week. Wow. $22,500 for rent, $12,000 for SNAP, and $3,000 for utilities. I feel so blessed, she says. I recognize my viewers. I know how much you got from the first, or second, or third round. I see you in the live chat this week, and I'm being tough on you tonight. I'm being tough on you tonight because I have not seen your recent success stories repeated yet. So go get another round. I know your names. I know you got a round, let's say, last summer or last winter. Go get another round today. The money is there. Don't let the money go untaken. Go get it right today. There's money available at all these incredible places. And with that, let's now turn back into Build Back Better Act that has lots of checks in there. This is in addition to third stimulus, which we just went over. It's repeated under fourth stimulus. But what are those other checks in fourth stimulus? Let's go over the details of them right now. They got in there the SALT cap, raising from $10,000 to $72,500 of what you can deduct in state and local taxes. They got cheaper prescription medication in there as well. Starting with 20 medications at day 1 and growing it to 30 by year 2028. Medicare Part B and D. They And that includes cancer, arthritis, diabetes, most expensive medication out there. $40 billion of free job training checks in there. Yes, that's great. The Medicaid gap fix, what is that? That provides years of subsidized private insurance to low-income uninsured people in 12 Republican holdout states. You'll get that insurance, finally. They got in there the housing assistance. The other ones that are new are the home repairs and to weatherize your home. They got in their nutrition, $65 per month for kids who are in school, who are not in school, for groceries. They got the $12,500 for purchase of a new electric vehicle made in union shops on U.S. soils. This means when you go to buy the car at the dealership, at the cash register, you pay $12,500 right there. It's literally live. It's not a refund check. It's at the time of purchase. And then we have all those provisions from third stimulus continuing. We have the hazard pay, the earned income tax credit, EIC, which you learn about at irs.gov, the CTC, the children's checks, $3,600 for a low-income family. One more year about that. The household tax credit. We have all these incredible checks. If you watch the shows that air on overnights LA at 9, 10, 11:30, and return back at 3 and 3:30 with sunrise, these checks are still all in there. It's Build Back Better. It's going to become a law. You see how a lot of these checks are a mixture of both social reform, dental, vision, and hearing, and also economic reform. Bernie wants to put in stuff like dental, vision, hearing, which is for people in need. But you also need those other items to be added across the board that give you checks. Great comments that came in overnight was, is this middle class, low income? It's both. They got the universal pre-kindergarten in there. They'll provide checks for 3 to 4 year olds. Childcare checks, the CTC we went over, the earned income tax credit, the household. The Medicare expansion we just went over as well. And then checks across the board. Finally, my commentary about what to anticipate in the next few days. A lot to go over. First, it's in times like this that you understand you have different broadcast channels out there. And today we had the President of the United States announcing his Supreme Court nominee pick. You don't see me covering that. They ran that story broadcast media all day long today. This is a financial news channel. I don't have time to run that story. Earlier in the day, they were running the latest at the Ukrainian airport. Fell to the Russians, were then recaptured by the Ukrainians. I don't have time to put that in a recording. What I'm saying to you is that because you see your mainstream broadcast channels, not financial news channels, covering those subject matters, don't think that Build Back Better Act is dead. Don't think that CR for stimulus is being rolled over, because they don't cover it. They choose what they can get in a programming time slot, and that's the story they're going to run with. Doesn't mean the other events aren't happening. Congress has to deal with this. Congress ain't dealing with Russia and Ukraine because that's mostly the purview of the White House. So what's important for you to understand is that those elements that are covered on this channel are still being worked on to be finished across the land. And if you don't hear them on front page of your non-financial news channel, don't think it's not happening. It's just they're running with the story of the moment that they think that needs to be the lead story, whether it's Russia and Ukraine. All right, let me turn to what I want to go over with Russia and Ukraine and how it impacts your wallet. We've already dealt with this issue of gasoline. I don't know how to predict this one, folks. This is a hard one, and the analysts don't know either. Will the White House be able to keep this price of gasoline at $100 a barrel, and how long? It's dependent on a series of factors, I can tell you that. How long is this Russia-Ukraine situation going to go on? Vladimir Putin is trying to take Ukraine by the weekend, so stay with me all weekend long and early next week. He may not. He may fail. The loss of troops among Russians is the worst since the Cold War. 2,000 Russian troops have already died. Ukrainian forces have really held well so far, even though they lost the airport, recaptured it. There has been loss of lives among Ukrainians as well. The situation then leaves you guessing, well, if Ukraine falls to Russia by the end of the week, then is Russia advancing to Georgia and Lithuania, or neighboring states that were previously part of the USSR? That is what many insiders believe he's going to try to do. Those are, in some cases, NATO countries, so it's a different situation. How does this impact your wallet and that price of gasoline at the pump? We don't know, because we don't know how stark the price of gasoline will spike. next week has that FOMC meeting by the Federal Reserve in which we'll see if it's going to be a half basis point spike. I don't think he should do it. I think they should do quarter basis and 5 spikes in 5 meetings. But I think they should start with a quarter. And then if Russia and Ukraine settles down, they can do a half at the next meeting. I don't think they should come in so heavy with the situation so untelling still in Russia and Ukraine. I don't think that Wall Street is ready for a quarter basis point spike next week. I think Wall Street is ready for I don't think Wall Street is ready for a half basis point. I think they're ready for a quarter basis point spike. When we're looking at Congress members, they're looking at the situation very fluidly because Republicans and Democrats both understand they need to get you money to seize the instance. And the instance is reducing the impact of inflation on your wallet. They understand they can't win the midterm elections, gain seats, or hold their seats by promising things. They got to do stuff now. And that stuff now is checks, money to you. Not necessarily dental, not necessarily vision. It's checks to you. They need to solve gasoline. They need to solve basic consumer goods. These are things that are going back to their home states and people saying, what's gone on with milk? What's gone on with the eggs? If you're in the live chat right now, post how much you're paying for gasoline at the pump and what town you're in. Los Angeles here, $5 a gallon. How much you're paying for eggs? Price of eggs sometimes has gone out of control. Milk gone out of control. And that is what they're trying to deal with right now. And that is really, really a difficult time step. You see how the scope of the coverage on this channel is keeping you up to date because the issue is not just inflation. The issue is what's causing inflation. Gasoline, Russia and Ukraine, and how that inflation impacts your stimulus, how it impacts how fast the stimulus goes out, and it impacts how much stimulus and how much bipartisan support there may be for stimulus, with senators now being told on both Republican Senate and Democratic side, I need assistance. It ain't sustainable where I'm living right now. SS300 is one of the things that the president should be doing right today. It requires a simple phone call. He should be doing it across the land. Finally, my commentary, if that was enough commentary for you just yet, is that if you're on Twitter, follow me at LALATE, and I'm retweeting the official statements from the Defense Ministry and the State Department of Ukraine. They are in their native language, but under each tweet, not my tweet, their tweet, you can push a button that says translate to English. It's live and it's happening and it's official statements. It's very unusual in the digital era that we can have statements from Ukraine, from the war zone, telling us what's happening by the minute. I'm not going to bring it on this channel because it's some of it's a little scary, and some of it is just overwhelming. But follow me on Twitter, and you will find those official accounts from Ukraine. I'm wearing blue, and I have a yellow surfboard. So my thoughts are with the families of Ukrainian citizens overseas, neighboring countries. They're very, very at edge. And also the citizens of Russia who are protesting the streets against what Vladimir Putin is doing, asking him to stop the elements across the board. I know the other news stories that have been out there today that are really they're almost just like a title, but with no body. As one financial news channel said, there is an offer to have a ceasefire discussion floating out there. China has reportedly asked Putin to have a discussion, sit down with Ukraine. If it happens overnight, I'll deliver the breaking news to you when it happens. And with that, stay with me as this programming continues tonight. We have Evenings LA at 5 o'clock, Evenings Countdown at 6 o'clock, Evenings Home Street and Stimulus at 7, and Evenings actually at 8 o'clock. Then we go into our overnight shows at 9, 10, 11, and 11:30 that all detail the big checks in Build Back Better. They're still in there, so watch those videos. I return tomorrow morning at 3 and 3:30, and then mornings LA at 9 a.m. live on air. So much across the board, so much money, so much details, so much financial news. Get that big money from Third Stimulus right today, folks. Don't wait. Have any questions about any of these checks, how to get them, how to get the programs, jump in the live chat or send me a private message. And if you've had success stories for rent, utilities, send me them and I'll feature them live on air tomorrow as well. Stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful evening. Keep your prayers with the people of Ukraine and stay with LA for more.